Imagine waking up in a city of 20,000 people. Voices, footsteps, life everywhere. By nightfall, almost all of them will be dead. Not in war, not by choice, but by something far more cruel. This is Pompeii, 79 AD, the day no one escaped. Pompeii was alive, a sprawling, vibrant hub of Roman life. In its streets, you could hear the constant murmur of a city breathing. Merchants haggled in the forum, their voices sharp and demanding. The clang of a blacksmith's hammer echoed from a nearby workshop, a rhythmic heartbeat against the city's pulse. Children's laughter spilled out of courtyards, their small feet pounding the cobblestones in games we can only guess at. Lovers stole quiet moments in hidden gardens, whispering promises for a future they believed was guaranteed. People argued, they celebrated, they worked. They had plans for tomorrow, for next week, for the rest of their lives. They were consumed by the small, vital dramas of daily existence, completely unaware of the colossal stage on which their final act would be performed. Above them all, a constant silent presence, stood Mount Vesuvius. It wasn't seen as a threat, it was just a mountain. Green, serene, a picturesque backdrop to their thriving city. Its slopes were covered in lush vineyards, a source of wealth and pride. But deep within its core, a cataclysm was brewing. Pressure was building, an immense, unstoppable force gathering its strength over centuries. No one in Pompeii knew they were living in the shadow of their own tombstone. They didn't know the mountain they admired was already preparing their deaths with cold, geological indifference. The first sign was a tremor, a violent shudder that ran through the earth. It wasn't the first time, but this one felt different, deeper, more menacing. Then, around midday, a sound that defied description. Not thunder, not an earthquake, but the sound of the world tearing itself apart. The peak of Mount Vesuvius exploded. A column of superheated gas, ash, and pumice shot miles into the sky. A monstrous dark pillar punching through the heavens. It blotted out the sun. In the middle of the day, a suffocating darkness descended upon Pompeii, turning noon into a starless midnight. Panic erupted. The city's vibrant hum became a singular, collective scream. People stumbled blindly through the sudden night, their terror amplified by the unknown. Then the ash began to fall, not like snow, but a thick, gritty rain of pulverized rock and glass. It filled the air, clogging their eyes, their noses, their lungs. Every breath was a struggle, a gasp for air that only brought more of the mountain's poison inside them. The ash kept coming. A relentless, suffocating blanket that grew heavier with each passing minute. It piled up on rooftops, the weight building until the timbers groaned, then splintered, then collapsed, crushing entire families who had sought shelter within their homes. The streets, once familiar pathways of life, disappeared under the grey deluge, becoming treacherous traps for those trying to flee. Breathing became agony. Each inhalation was a desperate, burning scrape, filling the lungs with sharp particles that tore at the tissue from within. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. They stumbled over unseen obstacles. They fell into the deepening ash, their struggles growing weaker until they were finally overcome, buried alive in a tomb of their own city. In their final desperate moments, families huddled together, locking themselves inside, praying the stone walls would protect them from the horror outside. They were wrong. The walls would become their coffins. Then came the final horror, the moment that erased all hope. A pyroclastic surge, a burning, incandescent cloud of gas and rock, hotter than an oven, rushed down the slopes of Vesuvius. It wasn't a landslide. It was an avalanche of death, moving at hundreds of miles per hour, hugging the ground and incinerating everything in its path. It moved faster than any human could run, faster than the screams that died in people's throats. There was no time for pain, no time for fear. For most, there was only a single, searing moment of annihilation. People died where they stood. They died in the streets. They died in their homes. A mother shielding her child with a body that offered no protection. Lovers found locked in a final, eternal embrace. A man curled in on himself, his last moments a futile attempt to fend off the inevitable. Some never even had time to scream. The killing cloud swept through Pompeii not as an attacker, but as an eraser. Pompeii did not fight, it was simply deleted from existence. By morning, the sun rose on a changed world, where a city had pulsed with life just a day before. There was now only a vast, silent, grey wasteland. Pompeii was gone, not destroyed in the way we think of ruins, not burned to the ground, buried perfectly, horrifyingly preserved beneath 15 to 20 feet of ash and stone. 20,000 lives, their hopes, their fears, their stories, all crushed into silence. The vibrant city became a mass grave, a monument to a tragedy so complete that the world simply forgot it ever existed. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept beneath the earth, a silent testament to the day everyone died. When Pompeii was finally rediscovered centuries later, the full gut-wrenching horror of its last day was revealed. Archaeologists found not just buildings and artifacts, but the people themselves. The cavities left in the hardened ash by their decomposed bodies were filled with plaster, creating chillingly detailed casts of their final moments. They were frozen in time, their postures speaking of a terror we can barely comprehend. A person running, their stride locked in a desperate flight that would never reach safety. A family huddled in a corner, their forms intertwined in a last, protective embrace. A man sitting, his head in his hands, surrendering to the end. They were not just skeletons, they were echoes of lives cut short. They were not remembered, until now. If this story moved you, leave a like to honor those who died. Subscribe for more forgotten, brutal history.